What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Today's reaction is going to be a Joe Rogan video, and it's titled "Chicago Gangs Are Brutal." Joe Rogan and Jim Brewer. I haven't seen this video, but I know, shout out to Chi-Town, first of all. I know that things in Chi-Town, at least from a media point of view, are very bad. I don't know if, those of you that know, those of you that know me, that know me from here, that know me from my other channel, you guys know I don't watch the news. I do not mess with mainstream media. I don't watch TV. I feel like there's way too much programming going on through the media. I know that 30 years ago, crime was at least probably 3 times higher than it is now. And you didn't see as much stuff on the news as you do now. And for the way I think, it's for a reason. So I hope everyone is safe in Chicago. I hope it's not as bad as the media's portraying it, but we do know that people are dying. So let's get to this video.
That video from Chicago where those kids
just ransacking.
They ran up to that white lady in front of her apartment, just beat the shit out of her.
Horrifying.
It's so crazy.
Is that real?
Horrifying.
That this is happening in modern 2023 in Chicago.
Right. Can you imagine?
Giant groups of kids just beating a lady up for no reason.
Because she was.
Did that really happen? Is that legit? I know they played. Look, gangbanging in California, there are rules to it, to an extent. Does everybody play by the rules? No. But do the vast majority of gang members play by the rules? Yes. In that, some of the rules that are pretty much adhered to by everyone is women, children, and the elderly are off limits. It's just frowned upon. There's nothing gangster about going after a woman, a child, or the elderly. So I know in other states it's different. To them, they feel like, hey, everything's free game. We're in the streets. We're doing our thing. I don't know. I don't know if this is a legit thing, but they're talking about it, so they saw it somewhere.
She's white. Let's not.
But imagine that.
She's a white girl.
Yeah.
And the look on her face, she probably has never even seen a fight, let alone been in a fight.
Sheer complete terror. And
beyond
they just beat the fuck out of her.
There's all hands of all different angles just beating you. And what is it? At the end of the day, what sparked it? What created that madness? What brings you to the state of I just got to beat someone because they look like? That's madness.
It's also a recognition that law enforcement has lost control. Like the fact that they can do that and they think they can do that as little kids. There's like young teenagers doing this, smashing windows and meeting up in groups of hundreds. Like, what are they?
That's the thing. When they had the whole defund the police thing, it was a trip to me. I spoke about it on my other channel. I think more than anything, I spoke about it on lives. And I always take the lives down, especially because we were always playing music. The whole defund the police thing, the politicians that were trying to push for that, they were never going to give up their private security. They didn't want to defund the police where they lived. They wanted to defund the police where the minorities live and the poor white people live. Why? Imagine owning a business, starting a business. How hard it is in this country to start a business now. With inflation, with the cost of living, with the dollar devaluing damn near on a daily basis, with how high everybody wants to raise minimum wage now. It kills the middle class. People aren't looking at that. But imagine if you were able to get something together and get a store, get a business, and a bunch of kids just break the window and come and steal all your inventory. It just doesn't make sense to me.
They do? Are they organizing on social media? Like, what are they doing?
For
Is
sure.
that what they're doing?
Yeah. It's happening lots of places.
And how is no one stopping that?
How's no one stopping it? You don't see the organizing on social media?
Yeah, it's crazy.
With everything that's seen on your phone, they don't see certain things.
Yeah, how do you not see that?
Come on, man.
But I don't think the way the policing is in this country, the way the people have lost respect for law enforcement, it's all that defund the police shit has real consequences, and that's one of them. You're seeing it right there. It's so spooky, man. It's so spooky how quickly things can like deteriorate.
Well, they also dehumanize everything. When you're a police officer, what you don't realize is most of the times those cops are the first one to see your dead child.
Yeah.
And you know the trauma that brings?
Yeah.
Like if you got kids at home and you became an officer because you grew up in a nowhere out situation, or maybe your parents got divorced or whatever, and the only way that you know to survive is you get a pension and blah, 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 and try to take the test. You take a test. You know, most people think cops are just, the guys that are shooting. Most of the things they're showing up to is watching people maimed and killed and fighting and beating women. I mean, the most horror for so many fired people in the...
I just want to say something. All societies need policing. Is every police officer a good guy? Hell no. Every family has somebody that's a bad apple. So of course, a police force is going to have bad apples, and there's no justification for them. They should be prosecuted. But when I say that every society needs policing, organized crime factions police their own, right? They have a form of policing. These are the things you're going to do. These are the things you're expected to do. When you step out of line, we're going to smash you. In prison, in California at least, every faction polices their own. Prison is a society of its own and must have policing. The COs don't do that. The COs let you out for yard, let you out for shower, lock you back in when you're done with both, let you go to chow if you're in a prison that can walk to the chow hall, let you come back. They don't do no policing. The convicts police their own. So, and everybody, even criminals know that policing is necessary to keep some form of functionable society, then how could people out here even think for a second that defunding the police is smart? Again, these people, these politicians that were pushing for it, I'm probably going to repeat this a bunch of times, so bear with me. The politicians that were pushing for defunding the police, that were right behind these minority number of people saying defund the police, defund. Those politicians never wanted their police department defunded, and were not going to get rid of the Secret Service or whatever private security detail they had. So let's just remember that.
Fire department, police, you show up and like, yeah, the kid's dead in the back. You want to call the mom. You know what kind of, like, that's the side that no one will ever talk about. And that's the side, you just show a clip that happened at one particular incident, and then the demons, we call it news media, the monsters, the creators of pure evil and violence and mind control and emotion control, spit out, and then boom, they hit the nerve, knowing they can manipulate and control and spread violence. And
it's also activists wanted to say that the problem was cops are showing up, law enforcement, for things that should just involve counselors, and that these cops are not qualified to do that, so they're going to defund that aspect of the police. The problem is just that narrative alone devalues the police. It's like you put this thing out there that we need to stop funding the police. The police are the problem. No, the crime is the fucking problem. And the problem is no one does a damn thing to prevent long-term crime by enriching communities, by going into these...
I think in a generic term, crime is the problem. Joe said is true, but we also have to realize that the drugs that are in our neighborhoods are so different than back in the days. You know, back in the days when I was growing up, you had people doing heroin. Everybody was smoking weed and drinking, right? You had cocaine, then crack came in. And those, heroin and cocaine and crack could destroy families, did destroy lives. But methamphetamines, bath salts, these drugs nowadays make people go insane. They make people lose their minds. Fentanyl, all these other new drugs, what is it? I don't even know, crocodile, whatever these hit people different. These are making people do things to where these criminals, these gangs, can't even police their own anymore. So I think, I know for a fact that it's an unfortunate thing. I think anybody who has done any type of study knows who's really behind all the drug trafficking in the world, who created every one of the cartels. And it's a dark force within our own government that did that. So because of that, drugs won't stop coming in. We have to figure out how to make people realize they don't need a drug to make themselves feel better or to think that it will better their situation. So I agree with Joel to an extent that, yeah, crime is the problem. It's not the police. The police are responding to a problem, but we need to figure out how to get people to not feel like they need to use a substance, especially nowadays, the substances that are out there. We need people to realize they don't need that at all. It doesn't help them. It doesn't help their situation. It worsens both.
Places, instead of spending $40 billion to fight this fucking proxy war with Ukraine and Russia, instead of doing that, what about fixing these fucking cities that have been economically disenfranchised since who the fuck knows when?
That's right.
Like just decade upon decade upon decade of the same kinds of crime in the same neighborhoods, and you expect people to come out of that and pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Those same communities have voted for the same political party and got shit on every single time, because if things get better, they will feel like they don't need that party and they won't get reelected. It's a game, man. It's a dirty game. But shit, I wasn't expecting to get pulled into such a deep topic. I thought this was gonna be about Chicago gangs, but this is actually they're focusing on some of the root issues, the root causes.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Bro, I remember the early 90s. I was doing something in Harlem. There was a show in Harlem. It was a comedy club there, the Uptown Comedy Club.
I remember that place.
Yeah. And I learned so much. I had the most incredible conversation. It was with Tracy Morgan, and we were on the street, and we just got so open and honest, and we just started asking each other questions. And when it came to things like welfare, I realized that is such a purposely driven, in my opinion, government trap.
Absolutely.
And just the way he was explaining, he's like, if I have a kid, they give me money, and he's like, we don't have options. They keep us here. They put certain foods here. They offer to pay us money. And I'd love to see the statistic of when welfare came out, how communities thrived or plummeted after that, because they didn't have a drive for themselves. They're under the illusion that they're going to be taken care of.
That is a very dangerous thing for people if you can keep them complacent and like with a certain level of income.
That's the thing in the Bible. I think it's in the Bible. I know it's an old saying. Yeah, I don't think it's in the Bible. It's an old saying, man. If you give a man a fish, he eats well for the day. But if you teach a man to fish, he eats well for the rest of his life. Welfare is giving somebody a fish. We could train people. We can give them counseling. I mean, it's probably a whole lot cheaper than welfare, and get people to understand their value and their worth. Get them into the job market. It helps the economy. It helps the neighborhoods. It helps the neighborhoods thrive. It helps people thrive. That's what's needed. These programs, I'm sure they're needed for certain people that cannot work for health reasons. Let's help those people. But able-bodied people should not receive handouts. They should receive hand-ups. They should receive something to make them understand their value, their worth, motivate them to want to provide. This is a deep video. I know a lot of people aren't going to like this video. I hear it already, but hopefully, you can put your political beliefs to the side, man, and just understand this shit is deep. It's been going on for long enough. Something's got to give.
And just keep that amount of money where they don't have to do anything. And a lot of people get conditioned. But the other thing is, like, how do you get people off of that? Like, without extreme willpower and discipline and, like, working really, really hard to get off of that. And then deciding you're not going to accept that money anymore. Like, for some people, it's easier to just stay in that little system.
And that goes on in every level.
Yeah.
That goes on every level. When every finance level you hit, it kind of, it gets easier at the more finances, but
it gets a lot easier.
It gets a lot easier.
It's a lot easier.
Yes.
But
yes.
the thing about it is that it's human nature, but B, there's a lack of hope. So, like, if you gave that welfare check to places where people are thriving and doing things that they love to do, then it wouldn't be so bad because they just keep doing things they love to do and thriving, right? And then maybe they would find other stuff to do for a living and they wouldn't need welfare. But if you're doing it to people that live in despair, that's when it's sick. Like, there's something sick about it, because it's like all you're doing is putting a little Band-Aid on it, and you are giving people food and you are giving people shelter, and that is good. It's definitely better than them being homeless. But that is not fixing anything. And the only way to fix it is to give people hope. And you can't have any hope when you live in a community where, like, everything's fucked, where, like, everyone's
drugs run rampant,
violence,
cigarettes,
gangs,
liquor store, everything runs rampant.
Yeah, and that's the real problem. The real problem is people have a lack of hope, lack of positive role models. Everybody that you know is either involved in crime or the victim of crime or avoiding crime, or it's like you're just dealing with constant violence and crime.
But give me your money, and I'll go fix Ukraine.
It's crazy, right? It's like, how do we not address these problems in America? How do they, like, whenever the debates come up every year?
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Pro-life, pro-choice.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to get jobs. Like, bitch, what you are not.
Yeah, I mean, those of you that have been following me on my other channel know these are things. And it's a trip, because a lot of people have told me, oh, I'm a Joe Rogan conservative. Joe Rogan's not a conservative. He's been asked where he stands, and he's like, I'm not a conservative. But I think we should be at a point where common sense dominates political ideologies, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. You're going to get the same results. It's insane that we are still allowing this to happen. But that's my video for today. Hopefully it provokes some thought. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out.